Even though I'm afraid I cannot pull this off, I still deeply love and completely accept myself. Even though I'm afraid I can't pull this off, right now I still deeply love and completely accept myself. Even though sometimes a part of me feels like I can't pull it off, I know that ultimately that's not real, and love is real, and I deeply love and completely accept myself. I do fear I can't pull this off. Being a teacher, being a guide, teaching things that I want to teach right and well and that do people good when they're taught right and well. It scares me to get it wrong. I'm scared of how people see me. I don't want to care so much what people think. Sometimes I make up that they're criticizing me or laughing at me or thinking ill of me. I'm afraid I'm a fraud sometimes. I forget about loving it and following my passion, and I forget about how the universe has brought me to where I am and that it all makes sense and that I'm actually clear about what wants to come through me. I forget that. And I just feel like a fraud. And I'm scared they'll find out I'm a fraud. And I don't want to be exposed. I don't want to be raked over the coals. I don't want to be shamed and ridiculed. So I know I shame and ridicule myself. Playing movies in my mind and going over scenarios where I project that others are doing that. I hate that. Sometimes I just think people don't like me and they don't like what I do. And I notice other people who are doing it in a way that maybe I like better, maybe others will like better. I don't compare. I'd like to recognize these thoughts faster as stressful, self-sabotaging, untrue thoughts. I'd like to recognize them as normal fears. I'd like to not take those thoughts personally. I'd like to remember that fraud syndrome is ubiquitous. I'd like to care about being in good standing with myself. I want to be into personal best. No competition. I can find the part of me that doesn't believe in competition. I know that there's room for me on the planet, and I get to take up space, and I get to have a voice. It's okay for me to shine. I get to shine. It's okay that I'd rather hide sometimes. I don't have to be out in the spotlight all the time. I can take as much downtime as I need. I'd like to not imagine myself in the spotlight when I feel shaky or scared or discouraged. I'd like to get better at catching early that I'm in a vulnerable moment and it's not time to evaluate myself. I'd like to get really good at calling myself back from the future. I'd like to bring it to now. I'd like to catch myself going to the future and gently call myself back to now. I'd especially like to do that when I'm predicting what I don't want. I'd like to catch myself predicting failures and humiliations. And then I'd just like to do what I'm doing now. Just reach for kinder, truer, more self-supporting thoughts. I'd like to be my own best ally. I'd like to believe in myself. I'd like to do that because I'm connected to Source and I can imagine that pure positive energy has its gaze upon me. Pure positive energy has its gaze upon me at all times. And I know that the reason I want to teach and guide people in these things is because life brought me here. This makes sense in my journey. It is aligned. My guidance system brought me to where I am now. And I'm passionate about what I want to share with others. And I've shown up to meet my own trauma and pain. I've shown up to heal myself. And it does not matter that that's still in progress. In fact, I'd like to be on the healing and evolution journey until the day I die. And I don't have to be perfect or realized to guide others. And I don't have to worry about being a fraud, because I'm never going to pretend that I'm teaching them from a place of perfection. I'm willing to share my journey with others. I am willing to get okay with my imperfections, because part of what I want to do as a guide is support others to support themselves, to forgive themselves, to make a lot of spaciousness for themselves. I'd like to model being in a spacious, generous process with yourself. I'd like to model really dropping in for a practice to bring presence, not to get it right, to have an experience, to meet yourself lovingly. Not to follow a form and get it just right, to get a gold star. I want to be a no bullshit teacher and guide. I want to bring grace to myself so that I'm always bringing grace to my students, because Source is always bringing grace to all of us. And I'm willing to get better as I go. And I'd like to evaluate myself kindly. And I'd like to evaluate myself at the right times. And I'd like to catch myself evaluating myself when it's not time and stop it. After I teach or do a piece of work toward teaching, I'd like to rest. I'd like to put my attention where I have no resistance. So that's not evaluating myself. And it's certainly not thinking about how others will evaluate me. I'd like to give myself space to look away. I'd like to just be a person. I'd like to walk myself through kindly and rest. And every morning come back to all things new, all things possible. And I'm going to do this because I am ready. And I love it. And I was guided here. And my guidance is bigger than my fears. And all is well. And there's a million chances for restarts. And I know how to course correct. And life is good. And I aim to live it. Doing what I love. Letting life show me how the journey goes. I'm willing. I'm here. Stay with the sensation and the tingling afterwards. Inhabit sensation and body and breath, not mind. Let the breath fill you and nourish you. Just let yourself integrate what just happened. Let the reverberations feel themselves. That's not the right language. Reveal themselves. Let yourself feel them. Let them keep reverberating and showing you. You're stepping into the new era. You're ready.